What is going on YouTube is JT. Thanks to Toff for letting me once again showcase a deck on his channel. Last time I showcased my Fluendaries deck that won me the OTS Championship, as you can see here with the playmat. This time I'm going to be showcasing a different deck, Pure Centur-Ion. I got second place at a box tournament back at the end of April, but since then I've revised the main deck and the extra deck too, and even the side deck. And I went 4-1 at the Rarity Collection Celebration Tournament yesterday with it. So we are going to quickly go over the deck list, or as quick as I can, and here we go. So we're going to start with the engine pieces. We got 3 copies of Centur-Ion Primera. It is the best card in the deck, our only tuner currently. It is a Stratos. It is the most important card. If you lose access to it, you're probably not going to win the game. 3 copies of Tridea. It's another way to get into your Primera. It modulates its own level to level 8, so you can go like Primera plus itself into one of your Centur-Ion Synchro monsters. Now we got Centur-Ion MF. I play 1 copy currently. Before Legacy of Destruction, I played 2. This card, while I was not a fan of it recently, in my branded matchup yesterday, it allowed me to play around Super Poly because I had Auxilla on the field, and I went into Primera plus MF to go into Calamity, and Calamity locked my opponent. Whereas if I had Gargoyle instead, it would have opened me up to like Super Poly into Garura, I think, is what, or Mud Dragon or something. But yeah. Speaking of Gargoyle, 1 copy of Gargoyle, another level 8, and modulates itself to level 4, but we don't usually do that since we typically want to have access to level 12 synchros. Maybe if a Centur-Ion level 8 synchro comes out, the level modulation will come up a lot more often. So we play like 8 main deck monsters for the engine, so that's all we really have access to right now. Next up, we have 3 copies of Emblema Oath. My favorite card in the archetype. It's very versatile. It lets you either place a Centur-Ion monster in your spell and trap card zone, with the condition that after it resolves, it can only summon from the extra deck Centur-Ion monsters. Or it lets you set a Centur-Ion spell or trap card from your deck to the field. Usually it'll go into like stand-up Centur-Ion, typically. Speaking of which, you got the part of the deck, the stand-up Centur-Ion, the field spell. This lets you combo off on your turn, and then also lets you synchro on your opponent's turn. Gives you access to into Calamity because you will stand up Centur-Ion, synchro your opponent's turn with Primera plus MF, a level 8 Tridea or Gargoyle, go to Crimson Dragon and tag out into Calamity, or a different level 12 Dragon, depending on the situation. 1 copy of Wake Up Centur-Ion. It is not great on its own. It's only live if you have a Centur-Ion in your monster in your spell and trap card zone, but if you have Primera in there, in the spell and trap card zone, you use this, summon a level 8 token, summon the Primera out, then synchro for a level 12. Or a level 8 if you decide to summon a level 4 token instead. But again, usually we just go for a level 8 token. It also foolishes a Centur-Ion card from your deck to the graveyard, so it can like foolish Bonds or Phalanx or even MF. But most of the time, if I'm foolishing something, it's going to be Bonds. Speaking of which, Centur-Ion Bonds, quick play spell, has 2 effects, both of which can be used on the same turn, once per turn for each. This lets you non-target place a Centur-Ion from your graveyard or hand into your spell and trap card zone when you activate it on the field. Its graveyard effect is if you special summon a Centur-Ion monster from the extra deck, you can banish it, target 1 Centur-Ion monster in the graveyard, and place it in the spell and trap card zone. This can actually chain block like Auxilla or Legacia. And for the last archetypal card, we have Centur-Ion Phalanx. It's spot removal, plus it has a graveyard recursion effect. So the spot removal is it banishes 1 monster on the one face-up monster on the field, targeting it, and then it special summons it during the next standby phase. This is pretty key. This special summoning condition is key because it will actually re-trigger your Auxilla or your Legacia. It also triggers other cards that activate upon special summon, like Aliberry Guess or Fallen of Albaz, so you should be wary of that. The graveyard effect allows you to banish it from the graveyard, and special summon 1 Centur-Ion Synchro monster from the graveyard, with the condition that it loses attack points. So This is a hard once per turn. I can only use one effect, and it's once per turn. We don't play the counter trap because I think the counter trap is kind of bad. Like, yeah, you want to have Omni negate, but it costs you like a Centur-Ion monster in your spell and trap card zone, and that usually dwindles down your resource. They can't really go into your Centur-Ion plays on your opponent's turn. So I choose Phalanx over the counter trap. That's it for the archetypal cards. Next up, we got hand traps. We play 12 hand traps. Triple Ash Blossom. On its own, it's kind of cheeks, but it's a very versatile card when paired with another hand trap. It does stop Branded Fusion, the Labyrinth trap cards like Big Welcome, Welcome Labyrinth, and so on and so forth. We play 2 copies of Ghost Ogre. Ghost Ogre is pretty cool. It can hit stuff like Temple to Snake Eye, IP, hits Nightmare Pain and Ubel. Can hit Felon of Albaz if it comes to that, so they can't like fuse away your stuff. 2 copies of Effect Veiler for just general effect negation. 2 copies of Ghost Mourner, more effect negation, and 3 copies of Infinite Permanence, also effect negation. These are actually not bad drawing on your turn. Same with Ghost Mourners. If the opponent happens to special summon a monster on your turn, you can just Ghost Mourner it. Ghost Ogre is also decent when you open it on your turn, or draw into it on your turn, depending on what the opponent's playing. These are also cross-out targets, by the way. These are the most impactful hand traps against Centur-Ion. That's it for the hand traps. Now we just have general non-engine consistency cards, anti-hand trap cards, and other stuff. Repot of Prosperity. Before Legacy of Destruction of Auxilia, we played Bonfire, but I no longer use Bonfire because Pot is just better. Now it lets you filter for your deck and just see your side deck cards, see your 1-card starters like Primera. Bonfire does search out Shadea, but Primera is usually the better starter of the deck. 3 cross-out Designator to stop hand traps. Like if you go like Pot, or you go Primera and the Ash, you can cross it out. 2 Talents to punish the opponent for trying to use a monster-based hand trap. Like the Ash your Pot, use Talents to look at your opponent's hand and rip out a second hand trap. And then you can just combo off from there, plus have hand knowledge. 1 Call by the Grave to sack hand traps. And for the last 2 non-engine, we got Terraforming to search out the field spell, and 1 random Harpy's Feather Duster because this is a flex spot and I didn't know what else to put. And it's always nice to sack back row decks. Like, Skill Drain hurts this deck a lot. Same with Rivalry and Gozen. So having a Feather Duster they can possibly pot into is really nice. Extra deck time. To Legacia. Before Legacy of Destruction, this was their go-to synchro. Turn 1, you draw and pot, but thanks to Auxilia coming out, we go to this instead. This searches out a Centur-Ion card from your deck to the hand, and so this is great with pot, because you can pot and then use this card's effect, whereas if you potted turn 1, you wouldn't have been able to use Legacia's draw effect. Legacia gets a Centur-Ion back to the spell and trap card zone from your graveyard or hand. This gets it back from the banished pile or graveyards, non-targeting. So if they like Bestial your Premier, which actually happened yesterday in my Mannadian matchup, you still get it from the banished pile because it doesn't target. It also helps you play around Shifter. 2 Crimson Dragon. We play 2 because in case something happens to one of them, so you have a backup with you. This lets you cheese out a level 12 dragon that fits the situation. We play 3 different level 12 Synchro Dragons. We play Calamity in case we face decks that primarily use their effects on the field, such as Flu, Branded. We play Cosmic Blazer Dragon as a walking Solemn Judgment / Solemn Strike. And we play Red Supernova Dragon. This is actually key against Ubel, because if they try to attack into Ubel or they're using a monster effect while this is on the field, you banish this and everything on their board, and this comes back. We have to play 1 more level 12 Synchro. We play Final Sigma. This is actually instant win against Flu. If I know my opponent's playing Flu, 9 times out of 10, I will summon this turn 1, and they can't do anything about it. Onslaught Winds can't get rid of it. Empen can't get over it because they can't reduce its attack. The only option for Flu is they have to use Herald of the Abyss, and usually they're not main decking Herald of the Abyss. One Cypherm Lord Omega in case we can't level modulate our Tridea into a level 8 and we want to go into a synchro play. The hand rip is pretty nice. Then we play an access code package. We play one access code, one Selene, one Dark. We play Dark so we have our Tridea get use when it can't be synchro, use the synchro material because of lack of Primera. Dark is one of the most prevalent attributes in the game at the moment. Between Tyr, Horus stuff, Phantom Knights, even Diabellstar. So Dark will always revive something from the graveyard, mostly. And then we play SP Low Knight. This came in clutch against Branded as well. This let me banish Tax Dragon, aka Masquerade, which let me play out the rest of my turn without taking damage. And last but not least, we play Abyss Dweller. Same situation as Omega in case we can't go for a level 12 synchro. We at least can overlay Primera plus Tridea, or possibly 2 Trideas, and lock out the opponent's graveyard. This didn't really come up yesterday. I actually faced Tyr twice. Well, I faced the graveyard-based decks twice, Phantom Knights, and then Tyr. And this didn't come up because I'd rather use other stuff. I typically side in Shifter. So I might cut this out for a pack a bit. And testing. Moving on to the side deck. My side deck went through a few changes before the event, before I left for the tournament. I was at one point going to side in power filters just to make my opponent not be able to play the game in case I face like Ubel, Snake Eye, etc. But overall, instead of the power filters, I decided to go with 2 Kesher Offender for board breaking to bait out like Imperm in case my opponent thought I was playing Kashtira and they would Imperm it so I can go into Unicorn. And this would just attack into a Floodgate and banish it. Fenrir kind of underperformed yesterday, only really side in against Phantom Knight PK, but unfortunately, there was too much pressure on the board already. Actually, prior to debating between Fenrir and Power Filter, I actually had droplets in the side, but I took those out earlier in the day. Kind of regret it. Might put droplets back in for later. 3 copies of D-Shifter. I mained this at the box tournament back in April, but it's not really that great main deck. This is sort of like a last resort. Like if I'm facing a graveyard reliant deck, such as Horus, Lightsworn, PK, etc., I will side these in. But I don't like it main deck because it conflicts with stand-up Centur-Ion a lot. And if your play is between like Tridea and Shifter, then your Tridea may get impermed, and that would really suck. So yeah, keeping Shifter out of the main deck allows me to have more access to my my extenders and whatnot for game 1. I only side in if necessary. Think about cutting these out for Bystials. I'm not sure right now. Backer removal, triple Cosmic, triple Evenly. This card was great yesterday. This card was okay. Not really much to say. It's just typical board wiping. Like you get your opponent in a simplified game state with evenly matched, and you can crumble off of Centur-Ion. Since there's no real Omni negates besides a Griffin, since Borlo is Savage and Baron is our ban, evenly is really good. Against Voiceless Voice, it's not that great because I can negate with Skull Guardian, but that's kind of the idea of Forbidden Droplet, is where I use evenly, and then for they chain Skull Guardian and a chain Droplet to send evenly, and then everything gets banished. But I don't have droplets on the side currently, which I'm going to fix later on. 3 copies of Dimensional Barrier for Fusion, Pendulum, XYZ, and opposing synchro decks. Unfortunately, this put me in a really awkward position yesterday against Vanadium because I had this set and my opponent went Harpy's Feather Duster, and I was really wanting to use it, but I more so wanted to go for my synchro plays myself. So I had a tough time deciding if I wanted to activate then. Because while I could have locked my opponent out of the game, I more so wanted to go for my synchro plays. But then I also considered that my opponent probably sided in Cosmic Cyclone, so I didn't really feel safe using the Centurion monsters to synchro into Crimson Dragon. I ultimately went with that, and thankfully, my opponent did not have the Cosmic, so it worked out. I wish there was a better Floodgate I could use over Demerit that didn't hurt my deck itself, but there isn't at the moment. At least none that I can figure out. Maybe Synchro Zone, but it doesn't really stop effects or summoning of other extra deck monsters, so it doesn't really work that well. And last but not least, there can be only one. Pretty sacky, but my Centur-Ion monsters are all different types. And I can go like Primarina plus Gargoyle into Legacia, or Primarina plus MF into Auxilla, or Primarina plus Shreya into Auxilla, so I'm not locked usually. This didn't come up. I was hoping to face like Yubel, Snake Eye, etc., but it didn't work out that way, so it didn't really come up. So that's the list. Changes I'm thinking of making once again are like the Fenrir's and the Tikaboo out for droplets because of better board breaking. I had Fenrir against that one deck, Phantom Knight PK, but there was too much advantage on the field already, so I couldn't properly board break the opponent. I feel like Droplet would have been better for me because of Griffin. And I'm probably might cut out the D shifters for Bystials or maybe Ghost Bells. Haven't decided yet. Everything else is okay, and then Abyss Dweller will probably be cut out for Packbit. But that is the deck list. I felt really good about playing it. I went 4-1 yesterday. And I've been popping locals with it a lot, and I might take this to nationals. I'm not sure if I'm gonna play the Whitewoods engine in it or not, but we'll see as time goes on. But Centurion is definitely a heavy consideration for me for nationals. But yeah, that is going to be the deck list. A big thank you to Toph for letting me showcase it. If you guys have any questions or comments about the deck, you can leave them in the comments, and I'll be happy to answer on my actual YouTube account. But that's going to be it. Please have a great day, and thanks for watching.